but I will discuss a few musical adaptations that I find particularly noteworthy, starting with the first. I briefly touched on this in year one, but a composer named Donald Swann composed a song cycle where he put music to several of the songs in Tolkien's text, music that was approved by Tolkien himself. Swann was best known as part of the musical comedy duo Flanders and Swann, so his involvement in a Tolkien adaptation might have been kind of a surprise. A comedy musician doing a Tolkien adaptation? That'd be like if a Lord of the Rings adaptation involved, say, half of Flight of the Conchords, to come up with a completely absurd and not at all believable example.
My lady.
A book with the sheet music was published in 1967, and then after that, a record was released called Poems and Songs from Middle-earth. I touched on this record last week because half of the record is Tolkien himself reading poetry. And the other half of the record is Swann's music, with him playing piano, with vocals by the very appropriately named William Elvin. I am in no way a music expert. I can't really describe music very well. I just know how it feels to me. And I gotta say, this really does feel British. I do mean that in a good way. Again, maybe it's just the Episcopalian upbringing talking, but this really does feel like an Anglican hymn that you would sing in a great hall, and I don't know if that feels right for Bilbo Baggins, but it definitely feels right for J.R.R. Tolkien. I don't know if this music would work as well for the version of the poem that's in The Hobbit, but for the more melancholy version in Lord of the Rings, I think this really does capture the emotion of the lyrics. But if you don't like it, we're about to get a bit more upbeat. On the hearth the fire is red, beneath the roof there is a bed. Now this, of course, is the walking song that the Hobbits sing in Book 1, Chapter 3, Three is Company, which is also the song that the song Pippin sings to Denethor in the third movie comes from. I do not think that scene would work quite as well if Pippin was using this tune. But again, for the song's actual place in the book, this feels bouncy and hobbity, and I dig it. It's worth noting that in one of the correspondences I talked about last week between Tolkien and BBC producer Terence Tiller, Tolkien claimed that while a few of the songs in the text were written to specific tunes he had in mind, most of them were not. So Tolkien's approval of the music on this record doesn't necessarily mean they're what he had in mind, they just didn't go against whatever he had in mind. And apparently the one piece that did go against what he had in mind is Namarie, aka Galadriel's Lament in Lorien. That was the one piece where Tolkien was dissatisfied with what Swann brought forth, and he dictated a little more how it should go, which might be why it's the least melodic piece here.
Lauriel antalassi surinen, ieni unotte me vera maraldaron, ieni velinte julderavanier.
I mean, this is a lament, so it doesn't not make sense, and I'm sure Tolkien had his reasons for making this piece basically tuneless, but maybe this piece just shouldn't have been put to music. Oh, interesting. The Song of Elbereth is the same tune as The Road Goes Ever, Ever On. I don't know if we're supposed to believe that Bilbo took that tune and put his own words to it, and it's just an ancient Elvish tune that Bilbo happened to know, or if this is not supposed to be the music actually in universe. This music only exists in our world. But either way, it's weird to hear a reprise of Road Goes Ever, Ever On that isn't inexplicably about how easy it is not to try. And that was Donald Swann's Tolkien music. For a man who was known for musical comedy, he sure took the work of Tolkien seriously.